producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm your host Cheryl Hentz, and I'm very pleased to be joined tonight by someone who's not been on the show in the past, but we're very happy to have him here. His name is Matt Winters, and he is the executive chef at, and I want to make sure I get this right, the Best Western Premier Waterfront Hotel. And we're going to find out exactly what he does there and so forth during the next 20 minutes or so. So thanks very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And you're here because your son is an avid viewer of the show and an animal lover like I am, and he sent me a text saying, hey, you should have my dad on. So I said, who's your dad and what does he do? So here you are. So thanks for being here. How long have you been at the convention center and the hotel?
A little over 2 years.
Okay. So you came here in 2013 then, or?
Yep, late 2013.
Okay,
November,
all right.
November to be exact.
What is it about Oshkosh that brought you here, or about that particular property that brought you to that property?
You know, it was more the property. I really have never spent a lot of time in Oshkosh. Kind of getting to like it a lot now that I'm here. But I knew the management team there very, very well. I had worked with a lot of them in the past. The opportunity came up to get on board with them, and the timing was right, so here I am.
Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about your professional training and, you know, where you've been in the past. What is it that makes an executive chef? How do you get that distinction or that title?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. The executive chef is the chef in charge of all food service and production. You know, typically does the administrative duties, you know, food ordering, planning the menus, teaching and training the crew, those types of things. You can get there, there's several different paths. Now, the one that I took, I actually started out as a pot washer a million years ago.
A pot washer?
A pot washer.
And was that before they had dishwashers?
Oh, I had to work my way up to being the dishwasher.
Okay.
I was lower than the dishwasher. I got all the bad jobs. And, you know, I didn't like washing pots, so I got to be the dishwasher. And I didn't like washing dishes, and I'm looking at the cooks, and it's like, you know, I'd really rather do that. So one thing leads to another. I start prep cooking, line cooking, and then working my way up the ladder to where eventually I became an executive chef. Along the way, I was very fortunate to meet an old German chef who makes Gordon Ramsay look like a pussycat. Yeah. And I spent 8 years working as an apprentice for him. And he gave me some very, very good advice so that I needed to get some schooling. So I got a degree in hotel and restaurant management while I was working with him. And you know, eventually got my own executive chef spot, and I've been doing that since, well, I guess it's been 20 years now that I've been an executive chef. Okay.
You know, you brought up Gordon Ramsay, and I love to watch him, but boy, his language is something else. And what, you know, why is it a sign of respect for the distinction that you've worked hard to get when people say, yes, chef, no, chef? You know, it almost sounds like they're in the military saying, yes, sir, no, sir. Why do they do that? Or is that just for TV purposes?
No, it's actually that way. And it's kind of hard to describe if you haven't actually worked in the kitchen, but a real professional kitchen is almost I guess, a military-style discipline. You have to be very, very disciplined. The executive chef, is the captain of the ship. And what he says goes. There's the right way, the wrong way, and the chef's way. And when the chef comes to you and says, I need this done, the correct response is, yes, chef. Not, well, maybe. Or, gee, what if I do it this way? No, you do it this way. You're under a deadline. You have a guest waiting. This is what you do. Make it this way. Make the guest happy. Prepare the food correctly. And so there's very little margin for error. So it kind of goes back to exactly a military-style discipline of, yes, sir. Yes, chef.
Okay, all right. Because I always wondered about that.
Yeah, that's...
So that is a tried and true method of the way kitchens, professional kitchens run.
Yeah, there have been a lot of times where I've worked with people who did not know my name because it was chef. And I see them on the street and it's chef. And it just gets to be such a habit for people. Even people who I've become very good friends with and no longer, we no longer work together, it's still, hey, chef.
Well, I guess it's like the president's aides, they still refer to them as, yes, Mr. President, or no, Mr. President, even though they're probably friends and have a first name basis kind of thing if they wanted to, but
right.
It just something just sort of becomes ingrained in you. So, all right, well, that's good to know. So one thing that we should probably talk about is, now you are not actually, you don't have anything really to do with the restaurant per se that's at the hotel,
correct? That is correct.
Okay, so tell folks what you're in charge of. It's the convention center, I'm assuming?
Yes, I handle all banquets and catering at the hotel, all banquets and catering at the convention center, and then there's also a small catering company that we handle as well for off-site catering and weddings and things like that.
Okay, all right. So how's business been these days? That hotel has, and convention center has gone through name change after name change after name change, and now we finally have someone in there running it that I think knows what they're doing, and they've certainly been in the hotel business and hospitality field for a very long time, and I think that's why they know what they're doing. So business is
extremely good, extremely good. We've exceeded projections every year since the place opened up. And you mentioned the team that's in there. That actually is what attracted me to Oshkosh, as I mentioned before. They do have a great background. They do know what they're doing, and it's nice to work with a team that understands the business and what you need to do to help it grow and make it a good, vibrant part of the community. Because a hotel and convention center really needs to be the anchor of a downtown, and the whole not the whole point, but one of the points is to really stimulate that part of the city, and if they're run properly, they can do that.
Well, I can tell you that I was actually at the convention center for a writers' conference, a 3-day writers' conference this past summer, and you guys provided meals for us during the day, and they were very good. You go to some places and they sort of have a fancier look to them and a fancier taste to them, and this was just very basic kind of stuff. It was good. It didn't seem like it was processed with a lot of other meals all at once. It was good. It was very tasteful, and warm. It wasn't lukewarm or cold like some, and so I enjoyed it. You guys did a very nice job, and we're handling, I can't remember how many people, but there were probably a couple hundred, maybe 300 people there. I don't remember offhand, but you guys did a great job.
Well, thank you.
So,
glad to hear that.
One question that I have to ask, and I realize that this doesn't necessarily pertain to you, but you've been in other situations where you've been running restaurants, whether they be your own or someone else's. Why do chefs tend to change menus a lot? I mean, you go into a restaurant, you go there because they have a specific dish that you really like, and you get there and you can't find it anymore on the menu, and the wait person says, well, we've got a new menu now. Why do they do that?
Well, that's actually becoming quite a trend these days, is to have the what's called it's called like a living menu, where it's evolving all the time and it's constantly changing. It really depends on the type of restaurant you go to. A lot of your chains are core menu driven, where they always have 5 or 6 dishes. And then you go to some places, and they have a specific dish that you really like, and you get there and you can't find it anymore on the menu, and the wait person says, well, we've got a new menu now. Why do they do that?
Well,
exactly that. We have that dish that everybody likes. We sell a lot of them, and so that's always going to be there. You get into some of the smaller, nicer, more upscale restaurants, then it becomes more of a creativity thing. Chefs are trying to go farm to fork these days, sourcing local, using the freshest product as possible. So you want to deal with seasonality, and seasonality dictates what you can put on the menu. And gosh, if it's January and I'm in Wisconsin, I'm not going to get really great produce.
That's probably true.
So you have to adjust to that and adapt your menu. And then it's also a profitability thing too. Certain times of the year, certain products are more expensive, and so you're going to try to maximize your profit by changing that menu up and utilizing those items that you can get at a good cost. Give the guests a beautiful, wonderful meal, satisfy them, give them a good value, and then still either get the profit for yourself if it's your restaurant or for your ownership, who you're working for.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I still like to see certain, some of the old staples on the menu. And one thing that I see with Gordon Ramsay all the time is he's constantly wanting restaurants that he's working with to streamline their menu. And some of the things that he puts out for these restaurants to serve, they almost appear like very fancy kind of things, whereas I think most people are just kind of simple. They just want the basic sort of stuff. Why do so many chefs feel that something really fancy and elegant on the plate is going to be appealing to a whole lot of people? Or do you find that it is appealing to people?
It depends on it really depends on your audience. And I refer to my guests as an audience because we're performing. We're not only just giving you food for your tummy. I mean, it's got to look good, it's got to be beautiful, it's got to satisfy the senses, all of those different things. But you have to know the audience. If you have a meat and potatoes audience, it needs to be a meat and potatoes dish. I can't put edible orchids and dandelions and this and that on the plate and give that to someone who really just wants a great pork chop with some mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And if the food is prepared well, the guest is going to like it. But no, if I try to take that pork chop and mashed potatoes to Santa Barbara and I'm out on the coast at this beautiful little restaurant and I try to serve that, they're going to laugh me out of there.
Sure, of course.
Because they're going to want the dandelions and the edible orchid.
Yep.
So different regions of the country have different tastes, and that's one thing I've learned over the years because I've moved around quite a bit, is that every region has its own palate and has that core palate of what they like. That's what you need to address, and then fill in on the outside because not everybody in the same area has the same palate either. So somebody is going to want to come in and want that foofy dish.
Yeah.
But not everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And it's important, I think, also, and I see more and more restaurants doing this, they're offering vegetarian or vegan dishes. They're offering gluten-free dishes because, you're having more and more people who are very specific in what they want also, or in what they can have. So that's something I've noticed as well.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a challenge.
Yeah, I bet it is.
It's going to be quite a challenge.
How do you keep everything straight in your head about what you need to do? I mean, how do you determine that?
Well, that's the job of the executive chef. That's what I do. Is keep that organized. Just for example, we had a catering 2 nights ago. About 500 and some odd people plated dinner, and out of that 500, I had 32 separate dietary requests.
Wow.
None of them the same.
Holy cow. That's...
Yeah.
Is that unheard of? I mean, and it seems like that's kind of uncommon for you to have that many.
That's a little much. That's a little much. Usually, 1%, maybe 2% is a lot, which would be 5 or 10 on a group that size.
Sure.
But then it's usually mostly gluten-frees or vegetarians or vegans or or whatever. This was an unusual group, but it's starting to become more and more common. And the amount that are asking for it, especially the gluten-free, is somebody's marketing that really well. There's a lot of people that are gluten-free today and not tomorrow, or gluten-free until they see what's offered for dessert, and then they suddenly are no longer gluten-free.
Yeah, I can understand. The desserts are always the best part of a meal for a lot of us, I think. That must present a challenge from an ordering standpoint, though, too, doesn't it? Because I mean, you never really know what someone's going to ask for, or in that particular case, how many different things people are going to make requests for. So how do you order in a case like that?
Well, in a banquet or catering setting, I actually do have a little bit of a heads up because it is pre-ordered.
Sure.
And it's done on a contract basis. So we know in advance in that case. But what really surprises me is how many people go to an event like that and throw a dietary request out without letting anyone know in advance. And that happens a lot.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. More than you would think.
So how do you counter that? How do you meet that challenge?
Well, we go into it with a plan. You know, I have a couple of standard vegetarian dishes that we always have product for, and standard gluten-free dishes that we always have product available for, and we always bring it along just in case. But we still have to scramble.
Sure.
And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's when I just want to hear yes, chef. I'm telling
Yes,
you to do
chef.
that. I don't want to hear anything else. Just yes, chef. Get it done.
Good point. And I know that this doesn't necessarily apply to you, Matt, but when people go into a restaurant, I think that too many times they figure, well, if something is not on the menu, I can't get it. And I'm learning more and more that, yeah, if they have the product, they can probably get it. For example, I went to a restaurant and all I wanted was like a perch or a fish sandwich of some kind. I didn't want the whole dinner, but it wasn't on the menu. Well, later on, when I spoke with the owner who came up and said, how are things going, blah, 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 I said, hey, how come I can't get like just a fish sandwich? He said, well, you can. Just tell them you want it. I mean, and really when you think about it, how complicated is that?
It's not.
You've got enough of the product for the fish. You've got a bun or some bread that you can put the fish in. Voila, you've got a sandwich. So I guess the message is that people should not be afraid to ask if they can be accommodated with
Right.
what they want, right?
Right. It never hurts to ask. And I mean, that would be my advice to anybody is ask. If they're going to say, well, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? They say, well, sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
But you might as well try.
Yeah.
And most of the time, and especially if you don't get too specific, you just say, let the chef make me a great fish sandwich. They'll go after it and they'll make you you'll get a better fish sandwich than you would have gotten if you said, give me this, this, and this.
Outstanding.
And
Good to know.
they'll play around with it a little
Yeah.
bit.
How are you, Matt, when you go out to a restaurant? Are you super picky about things?
No.
Not at all, really.
Not at all. I am the easiest guy to serve. And it sounds awful, but a lot of times I will just order a hamburger because I know I'm not going to be happy with the way they do something, and I'm not going to make a stink about it. I'll just give me a hamburger and fries, and I'm fine. If it's a restaurant that I know and I trust, then I'll go into their
Sure,
menu and I'll
sure.
order something else. But unless it's a really either a chef that I know is going to do it right, I'll just get something basic and
Sure.
just go with it.
Well, that's kind of interesting because I would think that chefs are ultra picky, but
Some are. I mean, a lot of chefs have got these egos that would fill this room.
like a Gordon Ramsay.
Like a Gordon
He's
Ramsay.
very full of himself, but he's probably very good at what he does.
Well, I don't know him, so I can't speak to him. But
Right.
what I've learned over the years is the bigger the ego, the lower the talent. And that's usually when I'm hiring chefs. That's one thing I'll watch for. If I've got somebody that's real cocky or really has this inflated self-image, they can go work for my competition because I know they're going to crash and burn.
Sure.
Give me the guy that's got a good work ethic, that's hungry, that's creative, that wants to be part of a team. Hey, I'm all over that.
Excellent. What is your favorite thing to cook?
Whatever I'm eating today.
What's your favorite thing to cook for a guest?
See, that's a hard question. I get asked that all the time because I don't really have a favorite. I go through phases, and like right now I'm kind of in this Indian phase.
Okay.
I'm doing like a lot of basmati and chana and all this cool stuff, and I'm really enjoying that. But it just changes up. It just depends what I'm in the mood for.
Okay. Do you like just kind of going in the kitchen and experimenting with all kinds of different things like a lot of chefs do?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And you know, especially at work, you know, the crew, you know, it'll be around lunchtime and the crew's getting a little bit hungry. I'm like, yeah, I'll make them some lunch. So I'll just go throw something together. Sometimes it comes together pretty good, and next thing you know, we're putting it on a banquet.
I was going to say, how often do you just experiment in the kitchen and something just turns out so well that you decide to put it on the menu?
All the time.
Okay,
We
so
do
that's
that
not
all
a
the time.
very uncommon thing at all.
No, not at all. And even my crew, a lot of times I'll encourage them to do the same thing. And we've come up with dishes that way too, where they've made something and it's like, wow, that's just fantastic. We got to sell it.
Yeah, yeah. So what kinds of conventions and conferences do you guys have coming in these days?
We just did a group from the dairy industry. That was the Big 500.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of business people. You know, that's typically our Tuesday through Friday business. And then we do a lot of weddings on Fridays and Saturdays and some Sundays.
Okay, excellent. So, do you cook at home? And we're just about out of time, but this is a question that I have to ask. Do you cook at home, or do you feel like then you're still working, you're still on the job?
I do all the cooking at home.
Okay.
My wife, love her to death, but she can't cook very well. So, now her tacos are better than mine. The kids will tell you her tacos are better than mine. But we have an arrangement where I take care of the cooking, she takes care of the laundry, because I can't do the laundry to save my life. I ruin all the clothes every time.
We all have our specialties,
And,
don't we?
You know, yeah, exactly. We play to our strengths. So,
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, I've enjoyed this very, very much, and I thank you for coming by, and please thank your son again for the idea. So Matt Winters, the executive chef over at the Waterfront Hotel, he's with the banquet and convention center part of things. So, but I can speak personally, they have good food in the restaurant as well. So go and check them out, and thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it very, very much. Just sit tight. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking with Mark Ziemer from the Oshkosh Seniors Center. We'll be right back.
If you have expired or unused medication, don't flush it, pour it down the drain, or toss it in the trash. Safely dispose of unwanted or expired medications at the drug drop box located inside the Oshkosh Police Department. It's convenient and anonymous, safe and secure, and it's open to everyone 24/7. Drop off your prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs, pet meds, and more. Keep drugs out of the reach of children and out of our water supply. Dispose of unwanted or expired medications at the drug drop box. For more information, visit the Oshkosh Police Department website at oshkoshpd.com.
Looking to give back to the community? Want to help fight hunger in the Oshkosh area? You can by donating food, your time, or your money. The Oshkosh Area Community Pantry needs more than 250 volunteers to operate and can always use new faces to help with a wide variety of tasks. The pantry cannot do it without you. Please consider helping fight hunger in Oshkosh. For more information, visit us online at oacptoday.org. That's oacptoday.org.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's said that a narrow vision is divisive, a broad vision expansive, but a divine vision is all-inclusive. Welcome all groups of citizens working for the greater good of the community. Speak your piece and be inclusive. The Oshkosh Civility Project is a community-based effort. More information at oshkoshcivilityproject.org.
Pastor.
And welcome back to the next segment of Eye on Oshkosh here. And as promised, we're joined now by Mark Ziemer. He's the Senior Services Manager at the Oshkosh Seniors Center. And very, very happy to have him back. He's been on in the past, and very proud to have him back yet again to talk to us about the things that we're doing for our senior citizens. And I am
Thanks,
one
Cheryl.
of those now. So,
Well, welcome to the fold.
and not just now. I mean, I have been for a while. But and I saw you at an event a couple days ago, and I said I got to start coming in here. I don't always think of myself as a senior citizen, though, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but I saw the joy and the friendship that and camaraderie that those people there have with each other, and I saw a vast array of activities and things going on, everything from crafts to cards to I think maybe somebody was playing bingo. I'm not sure.
And that's
Maybe
in,
it was
that's in
Scrabble.
one building. The other one has fitness and wood shop and quilting.
Yeah,
and
I was in the,
yeah.
the primary building. And it's, everybody is just so happy to be there. And so
I've often described it as the old version of the social network. The new version is let's pull our phones out and talk, and then they'd have to read on camera. That wouldn't work. But the old version is, at church or in the community center, the senior center, people come together, and they are still face-to-face social. How novel is that?
Yeah.
I have to teach my kids that one.
Yeah. How old are they?
31, 28, and 24.
So the 24-year-old's probably in that habit of doing this on the phone.
Big time.
Yeah.
My pocket will vibrate once or twice while we're talking this evening.
Well, as long as it just vibrates
That's
and
right.
doesn't ring, right?
That's right.
I have to always remind myself of that too. So, well, I was talking just a moment ago about an event that I was at the Seniors Center the other day, and I'll just put a plug in for that. The social literacy group here in town called Fit Oshkosh is doing a community book read that many of the elected officials in town and some of the community leaders are participating in. I'm participating in it as well, and it just started on the 19th of January, but that was just sort of a get together, get to know you kind of thing. It's really going to start to kick off in February, and I sent Mark the information, and they will have it on their Facebook page of the dates. You meet once a month to go through this book. It's called Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it's just a book about race relations, and some of the struggles that African Americans have had in the U.S. over the years. And so it's good for reading and then having a community conversation or a dialogue around that. And you have graciously offered the Senior Center as one of the daytime locations for this. So please check it out on the Senior Center's Facebook page.
Important topic.
It
so
is.
important.
And I mean, we had a great turnout at the Senior Center the other day. We had an equally great turnout that evening at the Alumni and Welcome Center, which is the second place that this event is taking place. But you can go to either place, and you're always
Day or
welcome.
night.
Day or night.
Right.
So feel free to join in the fun. Anyway, let's talk about the Senior Center because I was amazed at what I saw yet again. And there's just so much that you guys do. And then I was looking through before I left the other day. I picked up your January issue of, it's called The Current. How did it ever come up with that name, The Current?
It had the name senior in the name before.
Oh.
And so we gradually are working away from that and coming up with different words that work. And the fact that we are on the beautiful Fox River, and the water's flowing by.
Okay, there's where it comes
so
from
it
then.
comes from the river and
what's
happening, what's currently happening. So that was kind of the spin there.
Okay. Well, I was kind of flipping through this, after we got home, and I started really winding down a little bit that night.
Does that ever happen?
Yeah, well, every once in a while. But one thing, and I mentioned this to you, and I guess I hadn't paid very close attention to things over the years, because I never knew that there was a fee And it's a very nominal fee, but I never knew that there was a fee associated with things. Like for Oshkosh residents, it's $1.25 for a lot of things.
Yep.
I think most of us can afford that. For some things, I think it was like 75 cents or 50 cents or something like that.
We call it a user fee, and it really does help to, you know, defray a little bit, offset a little bit our operating costs, which is building and heat and light and staffing primarily. And the fact that the city only covers us 50% of the operating budget. Our Friends group helps 10%. The county comes in at another 7 or 8%. So, and then after that, it's user fees, it's grant writing, it's rentals, it's different things like that that make up the balance of all that.
I'm glad to know that. Thank you for mentioning that, because that was going to be one of my questions, you know, what are my property taxes paying for?
Sure.
I thought they were supposed to pay for that.
Partially.
And, so 50%, yeah. So I'm glad to know that. So, you know, if the city covers 50%, the county covers 7 or 8%, you've still got 40-some% that is uncovered. And yet it costs a lot to run an operation like that.
And our friends, I want to say it again, the friends of the Oshkosh Seniors are about 10%.
Okay.
They're significant. And we work together with them in our fundraisers. Fall Fest, well, Tour is actually a fundraiser because it's part of that Friends group. Annual Appeal. What am I missing? Those are the big ones.
Sure.
And they're, Murder Mystery Dinner, which is coming up in the spring. I should know the date in my head, but it's in the...
It's probably in here somewhere, isn't it? Somewhere. Murder Mystery Dinner.
Yep. Probably near the front, but...
Okay.
March or April? Come on, Ziemer.
Well, I will find it probably just
Anyway.
as we sign off from this show. Because that sounds like something I would even be interested in. But there's a lot of things in here that I'm interested in. But you've got a list of things that you want to chat about as well.
Well, you know, as you page through there, one of the things that strikes me, as we both grow older, and the whole population does, and when people, I always describe it as when people become empty nesters, if they have families, or they're nearing retirement and anticipating that stage in life, and then reaching that and making that leap, what are they doing? What do they have the money to do? Do they have a second home? Are they blessed with the opportunity to travel or to be part of different things? And that varies widely for everybody. But not often enough do I get a chance to sit down at tables with people or catch people individually and ask them, what are your challenges in growing older? What are your issues? What are your needs? Because every one of us, you know, is it your knee or my knee that's going to go first? Is it?
It better be yours, because mine are both fake. So
oh, they are already? Okay. Well,
mine already went, so it'll be yours next.
Thank you for letting me know. But if for people who are couples, is it my spouse dies? I'm not ready for that. How does my life change? My vision starts going. Where are my resources? What do I do? We have a support group for visually impaired people, and you sit around the table with people who have already gone through some of those things, and I can't tell you how many times I've been overwhelmed by the stories that are shared between people. The new one wanting to give up on life because I'm losing my sight, the one across the table who's been totally blind since 16, got married, had kids, raised a family.
Right.
Oh, well, but how do you, and then their answers and give and take, and again, the eyes start watering, the heart warms. So as much as we have for people to be active and engaged and physically healthy, at some point here I can transition into the 7 dimensions of wellness that we try, my program staff and our staff together, we try to emphasize to address all of life. You know, not to promote the why, but body, mind, and spirit has always been their tagline.
Right.
Well, same thing, only we even broaden it to embrace specifically all those different dimensions and to try, a little bit every month, but certainly throughout the year, to touch on all those to varying degrees. Because I've even talked to just general audiences about that, where personally, if I haven't been volunteering as much, or my spiritual life is lacking a little bit, I'm less whole. I'm less complete. I can tell that in myself. So we try to have that broad spectrum of opportunities for people who, for whatever reason, don't have that opportunity, haven't found that, and it gives them a way to engage and enrich and complete a more whole life.
Well, since you brought it up, Mark, why don't we talk about that? Tell us about the 7 dimensions of wellness. What does that mean, and what does it entail?
If I'm going to look, I want to look at my notes a little bit, because
by all means,
because otherwise I sit and try and guess remember what they all are.
This is an open book test.
Thank you. I mentioned physical already. Our senior center is blessed with 2 rooms full of exercise equipment and exercise floor where there are numerous different classes throughout the week. So one dimension is physical health and wellness. Emotional and mental health.
Okay.
Some of that's brain fitness. Some of that is that support group thing again. Grief and loss, dealing with changes that are happening to our bodies and as we age. Educational. Every month, if not, I can't say every week, but at least once a month, if not twice or 3 times a month, there's some kind of topic and speaker going on in one of the buildings about finances, about travel, around, nutrition, all kinds of things. One of the dimensions that we got down, I think everybody would realize we've got knocked out of the park, is social. We touched on that a little bit as you described what you were observing.
Yep.
But hopefully social, if we do our jobs better, it's not just coming together and playing a game of cards, and that's mind work, and we talk a little bit, but do we come a little early and converse and have a cup of coffee? After our game, do we do a little bit of that? Do we hang out? What drives me crazy or just breaks my heart is when I see somebody who parks, runs in, does their thing, runs out, drives home. Well, now I hope and pray that they have a full life outside of that. But if they're just going home to an empty home, they've done something good for themselves. But again, I hope and pray that their life is full, that they otherwise would use us to connect even further, to connect even more fully. Now, before I lose sight of the rest of the dimensions, because it's really easy to get caught up on any one of them.
Yes, it is.
Occupational is one, and that primarily means volunteerism for people who are retired and whatever. But for many, God bless them, if either of us have to, once we retire, do we still have a part-time job to help supplement a little bit because the cash flow is a little lacking? Or if I don't work part-time, I can't have cable or I can't have my smartphone,
Yep.
So we've talked about it, haven't started it. We might have a job club at our place sometime for people who haven't worked in a long time, haven't interviewed in a long time, haven't filled out an application in a long time. Again, people the same age going through that together as opposed to mixing with the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds trying to look for jobs. So
well, and I think, when you start that, Mark, I think along with that is helping each other figure out a way to not let it bring you down when you're missing out on job opportunities because of your age.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that people aren't supposed to be discriminating against people because of their age
Not supposed
or their
to.
sex or whatever, but we all know that people also do that very thing. And when you apply for job after job after job and get turned down consistently, that's got to be very frustrating for someone.
Right.
And I mean, let's face it, seniors are capable of doing so much more than serving as a greeter at Walmart. And I'm not putting Walmart down at all, but that's kind of a running joke with a lot of people is that, oh, you're retired? Well, I'll see you at Walmart, you know, working as a greeter. Yeah. And that's not, I mean, seniors have much, much more to offer than just that. And not only that, but the Senior Center is there for people 50 and up. And there's a lot of us in our 50s who aren't really anywhere near retirement yet.
Right.
So,
or those in our 60s who aren't really near close to it either.
Right, and the federal government's making sure of that, right?
Gets a little older every year.
Yes, it does. So, you know, I mean, we may be able to offer someone else something in the way of helping to keep their spirits up because they have been facing rejection after rejection.
Mm-hmm. The last two dimensions are spiritual and environmental.
Okay.
Spiritual, I think we do through some yoga, tai chi, book clubs, and an occasional speaker around those kinds of topics. Mm-hmm. Environmental, I always like to tease only because it's kind of an odd one, and yet, what can we all do to be better citizens of this world? And whether that's just ecologically minded or, now here's one of those things that if I get to retire at 65, I got 5 more years to pull this off. Could we not, like cities become sister cities to other cities, could we be a sister city or have a sister senior center? A lot of S's. Sorry.
Alliteration at its finest, right? A sister senior center. There you go.
You know, as blessed as we are here in northeast Wisconsin, I got more than one pair of shoes. And I got shoes in my closet that I don't need, that I haven't worn very often. Whether it's a pair of shoes, whether it's we send food, you know, let's share some of the blessing. Maybe it's in the States, maybe it's in the world, you know. That's a little environmental for me. World citizen. Now, you cut me off and direct me anytime you want. When we talk about people being engaged, whether they have to work or not, is one thing, and that's just a financial choice and sometimes challenge. But another one of my dreams is so many people retire and think, well, I got nothing to give. I can't help anybody. You know, I worked this all my life. What do I got to give? You know, I dream of a older adult leadership Oshkosh kind of a program that after X number of weeks or months where you come together and you have speakers and you empower people to make a difference, give them a certificate. Here you've graduated. Oh, yeah, okay, I've got a certificate now. Now go out and serve. Get active with the city of Oshkosh, the county of Winnebago, on a board or a commission. Get on the board at church. Find a not-for-profit. Do you believe in a cause? Then get behind that. You don't have to be on the board, but on a committee, as a volunteer. Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I try and stress that for everybody, no matter what their age.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, if every single person gave 1 hour of their time a month, can you imagine what we could accomplish as a country? You know, just 1 hour a month.
It would be a miracle.
Everybody has 1 hour a month.
They sure do.
You know, and I wanted to say something else about the Senior Center. You know, even if people are going in there and they haven't seen the current and they really don't know what's going on, even if they go in there, they're going to find someone to talk with even, you know. And I noticed that the other day, a couple of us who were volunteering the other day with this book read thing, noticed that there was a lady there, very sweet lady. She did participate in some activity. Don't remember what it was, but afterwards, she just, you could tell, and you joined in part of this conversation too. She just wanted to talk to someone. She didn't want to go home to her place, you know, and she just wanted to talk. And so 3 or 4 of us spent some time talking with her, and I got the feeling that that made her day.
And I was in the middle of a meeting with my staff. My door was open, and she popped around the corner, and I waved, but it wasn't something I could pull away at that moment with, but she came peeking back in my office, so you helped me make a connection that day. You made a wonderful connection with her.
Oh, well, thank
but
you.
I walked to the door with her, and we talked even longer, and that's what makes my job.
Sure.
Now, I'd love to do that 8 hours a day, which...
Yeah, you wouldn't get much done, but...
the city expects a few other things for me to accomplish, but...
But you know, I mean, that's the thing. There was a connection made.
Yeah. Oh.
And now...
Heartwarming.
I think she probably has an even greater connection with the Seniors Center, too.
I think so.
You know, she's relatively new to the community, not all that happy here.
Struggling.
Yep. And, but now maybe we've made her feel a little bit more comfortable in her new environment. And I thought it was wonderful, you know. And she was so sweet.
Yeah.
She was so sweet.
Lovely conversation, just back and forth. We have a choir that goes out and sings throughout the community. They sing on our campus a few times and for concerts and entertainment, but they'll go to a variety of housing locations or places to perform. And outstanding director who has taken them to a whole new level. The numbers have grown. Two people who found the choir as a wonderful outlet and resource, then found each other and then got married. Now, were they married before? I don't know what the whole story was, but you know, friendship connection and love connections.
Right. Yeah.
Don't quote. You know, that's not a formal program yet. It's not listed in here anymore.
It's not listed
no
in here, and
yet.
it's not a formal tagline.
No.
You know, Oshkosh Seniors Center, come make your love connection. You know, that's not it, right?
Cut. No. That's not the tagline.
But things happen.
But friendships and relationships and
relationships develop.
And support for one another. And wonderful conversations, and that's what led into me referencing that. So.
Yeah. So I see on your notes there, that you have highlighted something about a name change. What's going on with that? Are you guys anticipating a name change?
Back in 2010, we gave serious thought.
I remember that.
Okay.
You were on the show talking about that. I mean, you've been on the show since then, but that was one of the things that we talked about back then, and it never happened.
So it's been 5. The current got renamed.
That got renamed, yes. Yep. But the name of the Oshkosh Seniors Center didn't change.
Not yet. Across the nation, it's an ongoing conversation of embracing the roots of Senior Center and the tradition that brings, and the comfort that brings for some. But then it's also a Senior Center. I'm not old enough. I don't want to play cards and bingo. You've already helped tell my story a little bit, and we've touched on a few things that it's 50 miles past cards and bingo, which is fun to do. It's a great thing to come and do with us. But there are miles upon miles more of programs, activities, and ways to get involved.
Oh, there's so much here, including taking trips, whether it's a one-day trip up to a casino and back, or it's, I saw in here, a trip to Canada, I believe.
Alaska's coming up.
Alaska, that's the one. That's the one.
Out southwest. Usually they average one overseas every year. The one there are a lot of popular ones. Their tour around Lake Winnebago every year fills up. This year they're talking about 2 busloads to the state fair. You know, that piece of our friends group, that tours group, is just wonderful. It's done by all volunteers, and the revenue that's produced there is also a source. That's part of that 10% friends support that we get. So
sure. Who decides what kind of things are going to be offered by the Senior Center?
We have 2 wonderful program staff, an activities coordinator and a program coordinator. I meet with them once a week on average, and we're kicking around endless new ideas and always trying to prioritize them. This is the year of brain fitness. We've had some neat things that we've done. We're talking with Lutheran Social Services about a MindWorks class, restarting that again. There are apps, again, Luminosity and different programs like that you can do on your own. But do you do them once a day? Do you do them regularly?
They can be expensive depending on what you do. And why not utilize a local facility.
Come together,
have camaraderie as you're doing it.
Right.
And pay a very, very low cost, if anything.
Right.
I think that's great. And we all know that, brain exercises and brain wellness, if you're keeping your mind active and you're doing something, then some of these horrible things like Alzheimer's and dementia may not sneak up on you.
You can slow progress, whether you can eliminate it, arguably some of that you can't stop. But it's proven, there's evidence-based and outcome measures that are proven in many capacities, from balance and falls prevention to brain fitness and all kinds of things that, and these studies come out of universities, and we've got pages full of them now. There's a few that are state-supported with training and things that we're engaged in and active in. And again, when you say, how do we decide, we look at all those sheets and we say, okay, well, we've done good in this area, but this kind of complements that. And one of the intriguing conversations we're having when you mention tours is, what maybe this year, or hopefully this year, but for sure by next year, what could be an adventure tour for that younger, still able-bodied? Is it a trip down the Colorado through the Grand Canyon on rafts for a week? Is it some hiking someplace with, hopefully with some llamas or alpacas carrying the load, but but something a little more than, like you said, than in the bus, stop at a restaurant.
Yeah.
For those who are definitely appealing to a younger audience, or able-bodied, and that can be into the 80s and 90s. We all know there are no limitations to age. It's just how well anybody's body happens to work progressively as we get older.
Well, and I can tell you that my father, who, God rest his soul, was with us until 87 years old and just passed away in August.
God
but
bless him.
he was active right up until just shortly before his 87th birthday.
Wow.
And, he did a lot of things on his own and with other people.
Sure.
So, there's no age limit to what you can do or how involved you can be. There is an age limit, though. Speaking of that, I'm going to segue into the age of the people that you serve. You need to be 50 in order to do most things associated with the senior center.
That's correct.
I do know that when I was in my, I was maybe in my late 30s, and you guys offered a writing class, just kind of a write your life story kind of thing.
Sure.
And I, had called and I said I wanted to do that, and you guys were nice enough to let me do it. And I had a great time because I was with a bunch of elderly folks, and I love seniors and get along well with them, and so I had a ball. But generally, you have to be 50 years of age.
Yep.
Now, what if you've got, say, a 50-something person, but they've got a younger spouse or significant other? Can that person participate, or
We've
is it
made
kind
some
of
exceptions, but we're also wrestling with that right now in terms of a policy and procedure. From insurance purposes and all kinds of different city departments that weigh in on how we determine that. That's actually on the discussion table right now. So we've made some exceptions in the past. We may continue to do that, but that remains to be seen. We have a nutrition site funded through the county. You have to be 60 to actually take part in that, or pay the full price.
Okay.
But to get the subsidy, you have to be 60. So sometimes there are services that are housed at the center and sponsored by other entities that will come with different ages. But in terms of different age, well, and obviously a lot of people who are between 50 and 65, most of us are still having to work full time and don't have that flexibility. So the dream is also that in the not too distant future we will see some expanded hours, a couple nights a week, maybe a Saturday morning. So those who are empty nesters, those who are close to retirement, can begin to associate with us. So when they retire, bang, they're fully engaged and and connected. Because houses become quite a bit quieter when the last child leaves the nest. So
yep, that's true. We're down to like about 4.5 minutes, Mark. I can't even believe that.
That was quick.
I know. Can you? Oh, it's unreal. What else is on your list that you definitely want to get to?
Wow.
Because I don't want to have you leave here without reaching.
We've started some coffee house events. Those are evening events. Different singers and just kind of a neat atmosphere. We pulled in between 50 and 100 people for those. We started a night on the river. We've had that 2 years in a row now. Are we on our 3rd year or 4th year? That started out of somebody from the book club saying, I miss sitting by a campfire. We used to camp, and s'mores. I haven't had one, we haven't. So we get fire department permission right on the river, a couple of campfires, s'mores. We have a bluegrass group that performs. We have pontoon boat rides. People are in 7th heaven. It's simple.
Of course.
We get 200 or 300 people out. Wonderful Veterans Day breakfast every year with incredible support, 100 or 200 people attendance. We never do enough for our veterans.
No, that's true.
But one little thing. I dream about additional partnerships throughout the community, different businesses. You know, we talked about funding before. That's always a challenge. So anybody listening, if they have any kind of a dream about, oh, I've always thought about calling Ziemer or the Call Center because there's an angle that we could work together. I'm all ears. Ultimate goal is to serve more people, and I hear tell the number of older adults is doubling.
Yeah.
As you and I both grow older.
Yep.
Oh wait, maybe it's the whole population.
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess the one note that I wrote down, if people out there are listening, what else is it that would bring you in? If we're not doing something, or you had a bad experience, please let me know.
Okay.
What else could we be doing to enrich the lives of people growing older? The opportunities are endless. We've got a lot of ideas, but we want to be sensitive to, and we could survey more, but that brings you something.
Sure.
But I'm asking the public to get a hold of us. Tell us what you want. Tell us what we're doing good. Tell us what we could be doing better, what we could be doing different. Mm-hmm. That would bring them in and enrich their lives. We work all our lives to retire, or whatever the motivation is.
Yeah.
We get there, sit in front of the TV. What makes you feel whole?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we both know volunteerism is a piece of that.
I do so much of it, and yet there's still so many things that I'd like to do more of. But again, there's only so many hours in the day, and at some point I have to work to, put bread on my table and keep a roof over my head. Just real quickly, do you ever need volunteers? I'm assuming the answer is yes?
Always.
Okay.
From board level to the most easy tasks, whatever that might be, helping with the newsletter. I don't mean that's all easy, but and everything in between. So
okay, perfect. Well, we've got a beautiful facility here, and people who are not in the city can also use it. The user fee is just a smidge more if you're not a resident of the city of Oshkosh, but it still is very, very affordable. So we're going to get some more things from you at another time, a later date this year. And in the meantime, go check them out. Pick up a copy of the current. You can either get that at the Senior Center or online at the city's website. And I can't thank you enough for being here.
It's always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure. I always have a great time chatting with you, and we never seem to have enough time. But thank you very much for being here.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
And thanks to my guests from earlier, and thanks to you and my crew. They're fantastic, and I couldn't do this without them. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.